Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call and find out what's for dinner at 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100. Or check them out again at UppercutChops.com. An astounding round of applause for those incredible USDA Prime Wagyu steaks. Folks, they truly are the best I've ever had. Check them out again. And a big welcome to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates. Those watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates, Hotel TV in all Nielsen-rated markets, and everybody else streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer, and our friends on Facebook as well on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check that out. Folks, we are joined by our hockey analyst, and that would be Dave Jackson, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey. And Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Sal, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know what, buddy? Before we started the show, you were teaching me something that I had no damn clue about. Here, I'm thinking that I know something, and man, it's obvious that I don't know this. Give everybody an idea of what we were talking about and what you taught me in the last few minutes or so.
Well, you were ranting about a empty net goal scored by a player who you thought was offside. Went to review, and it was confirmed as good goal. And you were saying that the player was over the blue line long before the puck. So I went and checked it out, and I take for granted everybody knows it, but you've made me aware, I guess maybe a lot of people don't know, that a player can cross the blue line before the puck if he is in possession and control of the puck. So if, hypothetically, you had a breakaway and you wanted to turn around and skate backwards, and you would cross over the blue line with your feet first and then pull the puck in behind you, as long as you maintain possession and control, that's a legal play. If the only time they would be offside is if your teammate would have crossed the blue line before the puck came in, and then it would be offside. But if you're all by yourself, and you want to pull that puck in, you need possession and control of the puck before you break the plane, the forward plane of the blue line. So you can't be spinning backwards to get a pass. You receive the pass with both your feet in the zone and then pull it in. That's outside. But if you were standing on the blue line, got that pass, you could pull it in behind you because you had possession and control before you entered the zone.
So what I find interesting in that, folks, in case you don't know much about hockey, I mean, first of all, it's the best sport to watch. I've never played. I can't skate to save my life in the first place. But when we think about the action, it's just nonstop action, end to end. Even if it's a slow game, it's still a hell of a lot more action in hockey, I think, than any other sport. And it's continuous, too, for the most part. But what troubled me about this call or this situation is that, yes, there was the proposal, even though it was in the last 30 seconds or so of the game, but the coach for the St. Louis Blues, this was a call that happened, or I was watching the game between the Blues and the Vegas Golden Knights, and it was an empty net situation. But my question to you, Dave, is if the player was by himself, because there was nobody else, if you look at the replay as you did, there wasn't another player for the Vegas Golden Knights that was close enough to even consider the idea of challenging whether it was offsides or not. Maybe the coach may have forgotten the rule himself. What do you think about that?
that could be. The other thing I can think of is it's tough for people because we don't have the actual video to show them. But this wasn't a case of him skating backwards. This was a case of him crossing the line forwards. He just simply had the puck behind him as he was making a move. So his feet came in and the puck never broke the plane. And then he pulled it in across the blue line. The coach, what he might have thought was, if that player had crossed the blue line with the puck behind him, feet first, then brought it in, but now once he's in, he's not allowed to move that puck back outside the blue line and pull it back in. That would make him offside. It's only on the original entry. He would have so maybe the coach felt in his stick handling, he brought it in and back out and back in because it happened very fast.
Now you just saw the replay of it. Did you see any evidence that could have happened, or maybe the coach could have been confused that may have happened?
When I saw the real speed, I thought that's what happened. I thought he brought it in, brought it back out over the line and back in. Okay. So in real speed, I can see how the coach would have thought that as well.
Okay. Yeah, and see, I wasn't even looking at that. I was just merely looking at the feet because I always thought the puck had to enter the zone ahead of everything.
Yeah. No. So learn something every day. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, well, you know what? And that's why you're paid the big bucks, if you know what I mean.
Show me the money!
Right. But anyway, Dave, listen, for all those that don't know who you are and what you've done, look, I could read a resume, but I'd rather get a 30-second from you so everybody knows a little bit about your background and how you became to be the rules analyst at ESPN Hockey.
Well, I was with the NHL for 32 years. As a referee. I did 7 years minor leagues, some NHL games up and down, and then 25 years full-time NHL, 1,500 games. Retired in 2018, supervised. I was an officiating manager for 2 years, and then COVID hit. I got furloughed for a year and a half, and then the return to full, in-person hockey after COVID coincided with ESPN now getting the TV contract. And my name was submitted and I interviewed with ESPN, and, they're very cutting edge. They have rules analysts in pretty much all their sports, college football, pro football, basketball, college basketball. And they decided they were going to use one for hockey as well, which was, to my knowledge, it's the first time any network has used a rules analyst in hockey, and I was fortunate to be chosen, and now I'm in my 4th season doing it. Just loving it.
That's good stuff. And with all your time, I mean, look, you do play a little hockey too, but prior to becoming an official, I mean, you played a little bit too, didn't you?
Oh, sure. Growing up in Montreal, everybody wanted to be a Montreal Canadian. I mean, they won 5 cups in 10 years during the 70s. That was my early adolescence, and everybody wanted to be Guy Lafleur or Yvon Cornway, Larry Robinson. So yeah, we all wanted to play in the NHL, but right around the time I was 16, I just knew the dream wasn't going to happen. So I'd been refereeing hockey just for pocket change basically since I was 14 years old, and I said, well, I might as well just keep. I was in college, 17, 18, going to college, and I just kept refereeing hockey, and I must have been half decent because I moved up pretty fast. I got to major junior in Quebec, and the NHL noticed me and invited me to training camp, and they couldn't get rid of me for 32 years. So it was a good run.
Well, that's good stuff. And, a lot of people, they may not be that great in the sport, whatever it is, and they say, you know what, I do understand the sport. It's kind of like when I think back to baseball, there are certain guys that they can't hit their way out of a wet paper bag, but they know how to hit. So they'll teach hitting, because some people say, well, if you can't do, you teach. But in some cases, I mean, there are guys. Walter Riniak in the baseball world wasn't a great hitter, but the guy certainly could teach people how to hit. He had guys like Wade Boggs and Frank Thomas, etc. Big guys, Hall of Famers. And in some cases, some people just want to do a very particular function, whether it's coach or referee or whatnot. In the case of the referees that are out there, do you find that a lot of these guys were former players that wanted to play in the league, Or do you find that they just wanted to be referees?
No, I don't think there's anybody that just wanted to be a referee. I don't think you make it to the NHL as a referee if you hadn't played the game at least up to junior. Mm-hmm. You need to know the game. You need to know what it feels like to get slashed in the wrists. You need to know what it feels like to take a big body check. You really do. You need to know what frustrates a hockey player. You need to have lived that. You need to have felt it. I don't need to play the NHL to know that, a little tap on my wrist hurts or a slap on the hands. It hurts, even with padded gloves on. If you never played the game, I don't think you can fully appreciate what goes on and what constitutes a penalty and what isn't a penalty. You can know the rule book inside out. Doesn't make you a good referee. You need to have feel for the game. You need to understand the game. And I'd say now that at least 50% of the staff has played D1 or semi-pro hockey.
That's good stuff. When we come back from break, I want to ask you a little bit more about that because I have a very particular opinion on non-players that are in the coaching world and non-players that may be or refereeing their particular sport, whatever it is. But you made a very good point on that. And when we come back, I want to pick up on that because, Dave, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it's like the white elephant in the room. You got to talk about it at some point, right? So I'll tell you what, folks, don't go anywhere. Lots more to come here with Dave Jackson and myself here on the Sports Circus. Back here in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500, KHK, that's home of the 49ers, the New York Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcoming everybody else up and down the West Coast and throughout the heartland on all of our independents, all the way over to Auburn, Alabama, WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves. Speaking of Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for joining us over there. And everybody else on Pick Your Favorite Streaming Platform on television, also on Apple, Amazon, Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, you name it, we're there. Even the Mars rover, you can't get away from us, folks. All right, back here with Dave Jackson, the rules analyst for ESPN Hockey, talking a little bit about rules and talking a little bit about maybe some coaching situations. Now, during break, I had said, I personally have an issue with coaches they're coaching a team and they don't have on-the-field experience, or on the court or on the ice experience. And then, of course, there was the general manager's discussion, or the executives, the administrative side. Dave, what is your opinion on the idea of non-athletes in decision-making positions for player personnel?
Well, I think we touched on that briefly during the break. I think if you're going to try and teach a player, an athlete, how to perform a task, I think you have to have played the game. And as you said, talk about coaches. I look at golf instructors. Most golf instructors, swing instructors, if they could actually do it themselves, they'd be on the tour making millions. They're not, but they're very good at what they do. I mean, I can recognize a good golf swing versus a bad golf swing. I know how to make a perfect golf swing. I just physically can't do it, but I know how it should look. But I do play golf. So I think if you're going to coach, you have to have played the sport at some level, at some higher level, whether it be college, junior. You don't have to have played pro, but I think you do need to have experience. Much as I said in the first segment about refereeing. You need to have played the game in order to referee the game, to understand it. But if you want to then extrapolate that to a front office person, I think it helps, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think if you're a good manager of people, and if your ego is such that you don't mind surrounding yourself with people who know more than you do in various things, and you amalgamate all their ideas, I think you can be a very successful front office person without having played the sport at a high level. But I think when it comes to teaching skill, teaching strategy, I think you have to have played a sport to at least understand the dynamics of it.
What about player personnel positions when you're not necessarily on the field, but you said before you can recognize good talent if you see it? At what point do you cross that barrier to say, you know what, I could do this on a professional level and get paid for it?
That's a hell of a question, because I honestly don't think, people ask me, they go, what you do, would you ever consider doing color for a hockey broadcast? I'm like, no, that's out of my lane. I can recognize a good hockey play, but I can't break down how that play developed and how that player got in that position to make that play, what he had to do. That takes a guy that's in a dressing room every day, he's on a practice rink every morning, who's been in those situations to break that down. So you talk about player personnel. I really don't have an answer for that. I mean, my lane is hockey refereeing. And other than that, every other sport that I follow, I love NASCAR. I love baseball. I'm not qualified to work in either of those sports because I didn't play a high enough level. I don't know it well enough.
Right. As I look at it, and we'll go back to the baseball thing for just a moment, when there's a coaching decision, or better yet, when there is a administrative level, I'll give you a perfect example. Last year, it was the Miami Marlins bringing in Peter Bendix to be their general manager, not a former player. And his very first move makes one of the most, I would argue, historically one of the worst deals that's ever been made in Major League Baseball by basically trading away a 2-time batting champion, which of course goes on to win a 3-time batting champion. He's one of those guys, and he did it with 2 different teams in 2 different leagues. And you take essentially one of the better hitters in the game and you deal him off, and then you pay his salary and send him to the other side of the country when he's a local fan favorite. But the reason I bring it up is because the analytics thing comes into play. In the same way that if you are a former player, we'll just stick with baseball for a moment here. If you're a player, when your arm's getting tired, let's say if you're a pitcher. I think back when I was pitching, back in my day, I say, okay, when I'm missing up, and the coaches know when you're missing up, that means you're getting tired. I don't need, you've gone 84 pitches, your guy's getting tired. It has nothing to do with that. It's everything to do with where's the guy's missing. Because you go back to guys like Nolan Ryan who could throw 200 pitches in a game if he really needed to. So the arm test or the eye test deals with different metrics, not necessarily just all these sabermetrics and all these other analytics. And you look at it, now in hockey we have some analytics that people utilize, but the bigger question is, what is the real value difference? Now, as a referee in all your years, when guys are getting tired, they're clutching and grabbing and they're sucking wind. They need to get to the bench and they're on the long change in the middle period or something like that on the road, right? And you're like, well, who is more susceptible to a penalty in your eyes? Is it the tired player or is it the lazy player?
Well, I would say the tired player and a lazy player are very similar in what they do. They stop moving their feet.
Okay.
And bad things happen when you stop moving your feet. And that's the difference I try and tell people when it comes to regular season penalties and playoff penalties. Regular season penalties, there's a ton of lazy penalties where you stop moving your feet. There's a ton of retaliatory penalties where you lack discipline. When it comes to playoffs, the penalties you get in playoffs are usually accidental penalties, guys just trying too hard, and desperation penalties, where you're beaten, you have no choice but to haul the guy down because you'd rather do that than possibly give up a goal. But regular season, it's tired and lazy are pretty much, I wouldn't say the same thing because there's legitimately guys that are tired, but it comes down, you stop moving your feet, and you take bad penalties. Just
as a fan of the sport, do you find that there are people that make decisions, not saying teams or anything like that, or leagues or whatever. Do you find that people in decision-making positions may possibly overutilize statistics to make decisions?
I've seen it in baseball, like you just spoke about. I've seen playoff games where they've taken out a guy who probably could have gone 9 innings only to lose the game because they pulled him out because of analytics. And it makes me sick. I just hate seeing that. When it comes to refereeing, there really isn't analytics. Refereeing is the eye test. And the people in charge, I have a lot of faith, a lot of confidence in the people in charge. Stephen Walkham, he's one of the best bosses I ever worked for. And I believe he has a very good eye for which guys are performing and which guys aren't, and which guys, when it comes to playoffs, which guys should move on to the next round. One bad call doesn't make you a bad referee, and one great call doesn't make you a great referee. It's your body of work and the eye test, how you comport yourself, how you deal with adversity, how you bounce back from a bad call. Do you compound it? Do you just put it behind you and move on? There's so much that goes into it. and he's very good at it.
Part of the reason I brought that up was because of what you said was the eye test, because the referees have to use the eye test. You don't have a bunch of, sure, you could look at the stats to say, well, we know that Joe or Bill, whatever, they pull guys down late in their shifts, so we're going to need to keep an eye on that. But at the same time, you know what you're seeing out there. And as the rules analyst, when you look at something, you're like, okay, maybe I know that Joe or Bill does this or they have a tendency to do this, but it doesn't necessarily mean they did it because what you just saw, maybe they got beat, like you said. And the only choice they really had was to drag somebody down. Otherwise, there could be a breakaway or something to that effect.
True. And I think, there's very few analytics for referees when it comes to players. But one that jumps out at me, there's a lot of discussion lately on embellishment and diving. And you never want, as a referee, to call a player for diving based on his reputation. That's unfair to the player. You need to call each play for its own merits. But there are stats, and they're made available to show which players have been fined and so on for embellishment. So let's say, Sal, you've been fined and you have 6 embellishments on your record this season so far. Well, that's something I'm going to be aware of. I have a toolbox. Now, I'm not looking to go out and give Sal an embellishment penalty. But if I see something, and right away in my head, I go, geez, that looks like he embellished. And, it's Sal, well, I'm going to go with my gut then and call it. Versus I take a player, let's go way back, a guy like Mario Lemieux, 6'4", he never went, guy's hooking, holding, slashing, never went down. If I saw him go down, it would never even occur to me he was embellishing. He must have been hooked.
Right.
So
you know what?
Possibly where analytics come in.
Dave, when we come back, I want to pick up on that because that's a really important subject here. Back here in just a few minutes with Dave Jackson, rules analyst for ESPN Hockey, right here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All-American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus TheSportsCircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. Thanks for joining us today here with Dave Jackson, rules analyst for ESPN Hockey, and here to tell you all about what he does is Dave Jackson. Go ahead, Dave. Tell everybody all about what you do, how to follow you, and so forth.
Well, ESPN, ESPN Plus, Hulu, ABC. Any game that ESPN produces, I am the guy that stands by, and any rule controversy, any rule questions, they come to me, and I do my best to give my opinion on what I think the call should be, what the rule is, how it's interpreted. I'm not always right, because when it comes right down to it, it's humans making judgment calls in the situation room, and sometimes my judgment it differs from theirs, but I do my best to explain what the criteria is that goes into making the call.
Dave, how can everybody follow you?
ESPN Ref NHL on Twitter, and that's pretty much it. That and watch me on TV.
All right.
2 great games tonight. ESPN
Hey, listen, there's great games every day. What do you got coming up?
Tonight we got the Colorado Avalanche at the New York Islanders, followed by Dallas Stars at the Vegas Golden Knights. Should be 2 great games.
You know, the Dallas has been a heavy team for a long time, and boy, they are tough to play against. And
they are.
I like watching the games between Dallas and somebody, or the Kings and somebody, or Vegas, because Vegas is a big and heavy team too. You know, here's an interesting thing. I went and did a game in Anaheim. And I sat up in the box, and a couple of players from Anaheim were sitting up there and watching the game from the press box. And Mason McTavish was sitting up there. And Mason and I had almost a game-long conversation. And I asked him, because he was just shaking his head watching the game, I said, hey, man, who would you rather play against? A heavy team or a team that protects the puck? What's more difficult to play against? He said, honestly, it's these big, heavy teams. He said, I can't do anything against him because he's not a big guy. I mean, he's a good-sized guy, but the reality is, he said when they're that big, like Vegas was so big, he said, we have our hands full every time we play him because we're just not big and strong enough like they are. And when you stand next to him, whether you're in the locker room or on the ice, you see just how big these people are. And when you look at a guy like him, he's a super skilled stick-handling guy, but boy, when they get hit, they get hit.
Oh. You just look at the Stanley Cup champions over the last few years. Heavy teams. You go back to Chicago and LA, who dominated for like 5 years in a row. They just kept trading off who was going to win the cup. Those teams were heavy teams. It didn't retaliate. They just took your number, came back, and knocked the crap out of you a shift later. And right on, St. Louis, when they won, Washington, Colorado, Florida last year, big, heavy teams. They take the man in every situation. They wear you down. They just wear you down. It's no fun getting hit every time you get the puck. It takes its toll.
Well, and that brings me back to the Mario Lemieux conversation we had a little bit in the last segment, and then in between segments, was because Mario was a big guy, and he was hard to bump off the puck. Like Marian Hossa was almost like a smaller version of Mario Lemieux, right? Not really the hands like him, but could protect the puck well, played both ends of the ice very well, didn't complain about a whole lot. But Mario Lemieux was, in my opinion, that prototypical player. He is he's what a hockey player should look like, just in my opinion.
Well, and then you had Jaromir Jagr, who
yes,
was very similar. He was 6'4", with this massive rear end. You just stick that out there and keep the puck. No one can get the puck off him.
Yeah.
And two of those two guys together, I mean, it was just a game of keep away.
Yeah, and I mean, Jagr was one of my favorite players because of exactly what you said. You just couldn't get the puck from him. And it was truly a game of keep away.
Yeah, it truly was.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of small, skilled players, but if you can be big and have skill, I mean, you can write your own check.
Well, you know what I like about Ovechkin's game, and obviously he is going to break the Gretzky goal-scoring record, but what I like about his game, a lot of people don't, is he plays a very physical brand of hockey, and I think he's one of those guys that could play almost in any era, because that's just how he plays as I see it. I may be wrong, but from an officiating side, what do you think?
Well, from an officiating side, he's certainly not the player he was 10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago, he played like Jeremy Roenick.
Yes.
Like reckless abandon.
Yes.
Didn't care about his body. He didn't care about protecting himself or worrying about getting injured. He was like a fourth line power forward, but he didn't have the puck. He would go out there and he would just, I wouldn't say headhunting because he was a clean player. It wasn't dirty. But he would go out and he would look for big body checks.
Right.
And he would deliver them, wasn't worried about getting hurt himself. And then when he got the puck, I mean, people don't realize how big Ovechkin is. I mean, I'm saying he's 6'3", 6'4", probably a good 235, solid muscle, legs like tree trunks. I mean, the total package. It's tough to defend against a man like that.
Yeah, before you said Roenick, I was going to say that guy's just like JR, because the way he played just threw himself everywhere. And what I liked is the fact he was a grinder and a mucker that had incredible skills. Yes.
And then with Ovechkin now, you see him, he's more focused on, you can tell he's a more mature version of himself. He lays the body check when it's convenient, but he also makes sure he's not gonna get hurt himself. He doesn't, he plays more within himself, a little more controlled now, I find, watching him.
I see that he's fallen into the sniper role rather nicely.
Yes. Yeah. He can still wire that puck though from the top of that circle.
Oh yeah.
Top of the face-off dot.
Yep.
You know.
And
what gets me is how many goals he scores from there. I mean, everybody knows he's going to shoot and score from there, but he still does it, and there's no lot covering him. It must be harder than it looks.
It must be a lot harder, buddy. The whole world knows that puck is going to the left side, and he's going to fire it from there somewhere, and it'll be right around the dot.
Yeah, he still gets it done. I don't know how.
It's incredible. It's fun to watch. I mean, he's just one of those guys. You got to root for him. And again, even being here in Vegas, it was painful to watch his Capitals beat Vegas for the Cup back in 19 or whatever the heck it was, 18. I don't know. But my point is, it's painful, but at the same time, it's entertaining. Just in the same light, watching Super Mario and Jagr beat my beloved Blackhawks, my hometown. Yeah. But you tip your hat to him and say, "Thanks for the ass kicking. I appreciate that."
Like in any sport, I don't mind. I hate losing, but if I get beat, I'm okay with it. It's when I beat myself that it bothers me. Like I play a lot of pickleball now. I'm getting older, and somebody beats me with a great shot. Hats off to you, man. That was a great shot. If I return an easy shot into the net, I'm mad at myself. I hate losing because I beat myself. If somebody genuinely comes out and dominates me, it's like caps off to them. It's good for them.
What is the 1 minute on pickleball for all that don't know what it is?
Well, it's a cross between table tennis and real tennis. It's much smaller court, a lot less movement, but a lot of camaraderie. And you can use a wiffle ball, so you can really slam that ball without it going long. The way in tennis, I find every time I try to hit the ball hard, I don't have a lot of control. It just goes long. But in pickleball, I find I have more control, shorter paddle, So it really is like playing ping pong, but you're moving around and playing it. It's just a lot of fun.
So the ball is like a wiffle ball?
Yeah, it's about the size of a baseball, but it's a plastic wiffle ball.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just a big ping pong ball.
Yeah, basically. I can't believe you never played it. You're the proper age demographic.
Well, when on my next trip to your area, then I'll go ahead and give it a shot. I've never tried it. I mean, people say, well, have you ever played tennis? I'm like, no, but I played tiny tennis, which is, to me, it's always been ping pong. But now real tiny tennis is pickleball.
Well, I think the real humbling thing is gender or age don't really matter. It's all about learning the game. Because the first couple, well, even today, even now, I'm still getting beat by men and women older than I am. That I'm thinking I might be in better shape or stronger, but they're still kicking my butt, and it's actually fun, but it's humbling at the same time.
Can you put the big spin on it like in ping pong and make it curve around the net and stuff?
You can. I haven't figured out how to do it yet, but the really good players do it.
Oh, yeah. All right.
They'll hit a serve at you that you're backing up on, and the ball doesn't get to you. It just spins away, and yeah.
See, now I could do that on the ping pong table, but I can't. I've never tried it anywhere else. We'll have to try that. That's kind of interesting. And one of my friends plays, and the great Rick Barry, right? The Pro Basketball Hall of Famer, right? And Rick, I guess he's like the king of the mountain in his age group. And he talks about pickleball quite a bit. That's his big thing now. Of course, it always comes back to the NBA. But for him, it's pickleball and fishing. But yeah, I mean, pickleball is a very serious business. I mean, the courts are up everywhere. I mean, even here in Vegas, we've got them everywhere. I'm sure over where you live, they've got them as well.
Well, I spent 32 years every summer trying to get in shape for training camp. And my go-to was the stationary bike. You 30 minutes on the bike and you burn 450 calories. But boring, really boring. I'm at a point in my life now where I hate being bored. So all these people out having fun. So I started wearing a heart rate monitor.
Right. And
I go for a pickleball and I burn 9,000 calories.
Folks, back here in a few minutes with Dave Jackson. Don't go anywhere. Last more to come.
Can't beat fun at the old ballpark, friends. High pop fly. That would be a home run in a phone booth. I know what the big deal about Cracker Jack is. Did you ever go and buy a pack of Cracker Jack thinking you're going to get a prize and find no prize in the box? Here's the pitch. That might not sound important to some people, but when you're a little kid, especially from humble origin, and they cheat you out of a prize, there's a bouncing ball. Second baseman has a Barbary over to first. It's hard to think in laudatory terms of the product.
I think if there was an occasional box of Cracker Jacks that found no prizes for the little Harry Carey many years ago.
You got that right. And boy, when a box of Cracker Jack to me meant a lot of money. Here's a pitch bounce foul. That's the most asinine marketing I've ever heard of. 1 ball, 1 strike. These guys say, well, you sing about Cracker Jack. I said that I only sing it because it's in the song. Here's a pitch foul back. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even to this day, some youngsters who buy a box of Cracker Jack don't find a prize in the box. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Well, if you're going to talk about our congressman being crooked, here's a pitch foul out of play. Why not talk about commercial products that don't do what they represent to do? They told me when they hired me it was a temporary job. Born and raised in St. Louis, and you can imagine the Cardinals were my favorite team from the day I could remember. And all of a sudden, the miracle of life, I'm broadcasting Card games. I own the town and broadcast them for 25 years, and I thought they're going to give me a gold watch, and they gave me a pink slip. Then I went out to work for Charlie Finley for a year, and that's par for the course. Came to Chicago, and I was with the White Sox 11 years, and now with the Cubs. Never missed a game, never missed a time at bat, never missed a half inning that I was supposed to do. You know, Chicago is such a marvelous city. Hey, we got some Chicago people. You know, you never succeed in this business until you've had the experience of working with a terrible hangover. Not until you've been able to come through with flying colors under those circumstances can you consider yourself a professional. Lord knows, I've had more than my share of hangovers.
There's a drive, way back, it might be, it could be, and it is. Holy cow, this crowd is wild.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out TheSportsCircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Stitcher, and a whole bunch more. Also, while you're at TheSportsCircus.com, make sure you check out the store. Lots of great items at the store for all your wintertime needs. Hats, t-shirts, probably not t-shirts, sweatshirts, sweatpants, and all those warm weather items. Check it out at TheSportsCircus.com, along with our partners. Lots of great partners. One of those is Al's Number One Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef in Chicago's Little Italy, 1079 West Taylor Street. And if you can't get there, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And if you don't know what the Italian beef sandwich is, learn about it, read about it. They're the originators of it. They've been around since 1938, making incredible food. Yes! Boy, that's good stuff. If you've never had an Italian beef sandwich, you better go try one. All right, welcome back to everybody on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody on TV, thanks for joining us, streaming as well. Back here with Dave Jackson, rules analyst from ESPN Hockey. And Dave is a long-standing official in the league. I think, was it 32 years of officiating?
Yes.
That's a lot of years. And, you know, when we think about the officiating, we also have the NHL Officials Association. What is that?
Well, it's much like a players' union or a players' association. The difference is our board is active officials. So when I was part of it, you know, obviously I'm an alumni now, but when I was part of it, you have elections every training camp and you vote president and 5 other board members, and they represent us as a group. They're our negotiating body. And when it comes to negotiating new contracts or any type of grievance you might have, any type of workplace issues, they're the go-betweens between the director of officiating and the commissioner's office.
Dave, what makes a Hall of Fame official?
We have some guys, I think, that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't. I look at Kevin Collins, longtime linesman, American-born, over 2,000 games, countless Stanley Cups. I look at Don Koharski. His numbers, I mean, should get him there. I mean, that's just 2 of probably a handful of guys that should be there. I think it's your body of work. I think it's the amount of Stanley Cup finals you work. I mean, only 4 guys work the Stanley Cup finals. And we have guys that have worked 10, a dozen Stanley Cup finals. I mean, I worked 1,500 games. I never worked Stanley Cup final. I never made the Final 4. I was in the Final 8. I thought I was probably, it was my year. I didn't get it. I might have been 5th or 6th guy. And then the following year, you work even harder, saying, I'm going to be there. And then you screw up in the first round and you're gone. It's not, you don't get promoted to the finals by your seniority. You get there by your performance in the playoffs. And for these guys to be that consistent and do those many finals, and then you have things like guys that work gold medal games in the Olympics, guys who work Canada Cup tournaments, the final games. those are kind of guys that have just proved over and over and over that their degree of judgment, their confidence, their consistency in their body of work, I guess that's what makes a Hall of Fame official. Somebody that's well respected by everyone in the community.
Kind of like a Gold Glover on the baseball field. Your fielding percentage, right? How many errors are you making out there?
That's very tangible. That's tangible. How many balls are you hit to you, and how many plays do you make? With the referees, it's definitely going back to our first segment. It's the eye test.
Right. Who is the voting body for the Hall of Fame for officials?
The same as it is for the players. Same group of guys.
Okay.
They vote for players, management, builders, and officials.
Okay. Talk to me about Zebra Care. Zebra's Care.
Zebra Cares. Zebra Cares is a charity that we set up, going back, it's got to be at least 15 years now. And what it does, I mean, we don't have the same kind of impact players do and the same type of reach that they do. But what we do in our own small little way is we go to each team and talk to their PR department and their community resource department, and we find families, normally families with children who are struggling, and it could be with sickness, it could be with illness, debilitating injuries, and what we do in conjunction with the team is we will have them get to the game early. They get a small tour from the team, and then they bring them down to our locker room where we have a little bag for them, give them a referee's jersey, let them hang out. They take pictures with our jerseys on, ask as many refereeing questions as they want, and then after the game, we have them back down in the room with their extended family, their parents, and all that. And if we can, we'll walk out onto the ice when the Zamboni goes on. We'll take more pictures there, and just make them feel like they're part of the game. Just make that day a better day for them than it would have been if they weren't there. We just sort of reach out. It's community outreach, basically what it is.
Right. And for example, with the infusion center at the Buffalo Women's and Children's Hospital, kind of a cool setup that you've got over there with the Zebra's Care. I like the idea of, folks, in case you don't know, I'm looking at it on the website, and that would be NHLofficials.com. Then you click on the Zebra's Care, and it says the infusion center is a room where children go to receive many types of infusions, ranging from blood dialysis to chemo treatments. And what's cool is that, look, the officials actually give a damn too. It's not just the players. There's all parts involved. Sometimes you have team executives, it's players, but it's also officials. And a lot of people don't really hear about this, Dave.
Well, I think the difference is a little bit, and I know the players' associations in all sports do tremendous work. They visit hospitals, they do all that. But I think it hits home possibly a little more with officials because we're older. You've got a lot of players. I mean, I'm not sure what the mean average of age is for players, but you got a lot of guys under 26 years old. The bulk of our officiating staff is somewhere between 30 and 55. So most of the guys have kids. Some of the guys have grandkids. So I think it really hits home when you see a sick kid and you realize that, that could have been my kid, that could have been my grandkid, or maybe it is your kid or grandkid. So there's real emotions there that you can really relate to, and you might have been through it yourself. And so it's a real desire to give back after the fact.
Yeah, I think a lot of people seem to forget that, look, these are sports, but it's business. And whether it's this sport or that sport, this championship, this one, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's all business. Yes, it's a business that we may love as a kid, we love as adults, we love to watch it on television or whatever. But these are all humans that play these things, and they come together for tragedies and travesties, and they come together to celebrate things too. But in many cases, people that are stuck in hospitals don't get an opportunity to celebrate anything except the fact that maybe they woke up today, which we all should celebrate no matter what. People say, are you having a good day? Of course, I say, I woke up today. Of course, it's a great day, right? You've heard me say that too. But ultimately, look, we've both had some health issues, and a lot of other people have them. But the people in the hospitals almost seem like they're forgotten. And that's kind of why I like what they do over at the University of Iowa, with the football field, how they have the glass booth that's from the hospital. You can actually watch the game from the hospital. I think it's a children's hospital, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I think the Zebras Care partnership, for example, the sponsorship with the Infusion Center, that's kind of a big deal. A lot of people don't get it, but I do. And of course, always a nice round of applause when there's something, I guess people could see that there's a bigger issue out there instead of winning a championship, because there's a hell of a lot more to life than that.
Well, you just got to put it in perspective. It's a game.
It really is a game. And some
it's
people,
a child's game that men play for a lot of money.
Yes.
And that's the same with all sports.
Yes.
And, I was just, every day I was lucky to be part of it for 32 years. I'm still part of it. I'm still lucky. So.
Right. Now you don't have to get out there and skate around. And I'm sure you've had some fun conversations. We'll cover that another time. I'm sure you've had some fun conversation with some of these players. Like, what are you doing? You know better. You shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff out. Well, I'm sure you've gotten some great excuses and heard some funny stuff. But again, we'll cover that on another show.
Great stories, but I'm going to say 80 to 90% of them I can't really repeat. So
yeah,
right. You and I have to sit out by a campfire with a beer for me to tell you those stories.
A campfire and a beer. People don't even do that anymore. They're so worried about their cell phones now. Or they're checking their phones every 30 seconds. Did I miss a notification or something?
Well, we got to go somewhere where there's no service.
You're right. And I would absolutely agree with that, because a lot of people are so focused on that little computer that they carry around in their hand that they kind of lose sight of what's going on in life in the first place. But like social media really is anti-social media.
Well, I think about I'm a concert guy. I love going to concerts, small venues, not arena shows. And as people, I mean, it doesn't bother me, but they got their camera out filming the show all night long. Every song they like, they're filming it. They're never going to watch them. They're going to sit on their phone for 10 years. They're going to delete them. They just put your phone in your pocket and watch the show.
Right. By the way,
have it up here.
Yeah.
Have it up here.
Yeah.
And then tell people. And when you tell people about the show, it's going to even increase. The increasing grandeur every time you tell the story till it was the best concert ever. You're not going to go to your phone and show somebody a 30-second clip and have it really do justice. So just enjoy the concert in the moment.
Right. Be there, because that's where you are. What's interesting is people do that on a regular basis. But we think about watching the show. It's like going fishing. It's the fish story, right? My father used to tell the fish story, and every time it was just a little stinger about maybe 6 inches long. And before you know it, now it's a whale, right? Every time the fish will get bigger and bigger and bigger every time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. So, Dave, you're going to have to come back and join us again here on the Sports Circus. And of course, let's visit. We've got all kinds of things that we could talk about, from pickleball to fishing, right? Of course, and hockey as well. And it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to talk to you, Sal.
All right. It's always a good time. And that's Dave Jackson, folks. Make sure you check him out. Dave, what's your social media again for people to follow you?
ESPN Ref NHL at Twitter.
ESPN
or
Ref.
X as they call it now, but I have a tough time calling it X, so I still call it Twitter.
Right, ESPN Ref NHL, and that is Dave Jackson, the great Dave Jackson. And Dave, we'll see you again on an upcoming episode. And until then, folks, I'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.